One. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to an unlikely story for our very special event with Jake Marrazzo in conversation with Jeff Kinney. And I also have Greg Heffley here with me. He decided he wanted to pitch in. I have a couple of housekeeping items to start. If you lose your connection, your sound, or your video, just refresh your page or exit out of your browser, and then you can jump right back in. You can also hit the help button and click on compatibility mode, and that may help as well. You'll be on a little delay, and you can click out of it at any time. If you have questions for Jake, you can type them into the Ask a Question box at the bottom of your screen, and you can also upvote any questions so that they float to the top. There's a green button you will notice right down there. You can click on to purchase your very own copy of One Wants to Be a Letter. Here it is. And if you place your order tonight, you can have it signed and personalized by Jake. Just make sure that you put the name that you want it to inscribe to in the order comments of your web order. So back in September, it feels like a year ago, Jake's father, John, emailed Deb, our store manager, to see if we would carry Jake's book and if Jeff Kinney would be willing to review a copy. Not only did Jeff read Jake's book, but he offered to host him here for an event tonight at an unlikely story, and we are delighted to welcome Jake here tonight. Jake Marrazzo is a 17-year-old with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, and he's the author of One Wants to Be a Letter, about being different and finding your true self. Jake's parents read to him constantly when he was young, and he was always making up stories. When he was 4 years old, he told his dad that he had a book idea called One Wants to Be a Letter. He explained that one was a number and had a lot of letter friends, and he felt different and wanted to be like them. Many of the words come from Jake's dad, but the idea and the story came from the creative mind of a 4-year-old. When you are true to who you are, you will find your happiness. Jake is in his senior year of high school and is active in the drama club, appearing in numerous plays and musicals. Despite his physical challenges, he still wants to be just like everyone else. Jake has been featured on The Dr. Phil Show, WCVB-ABC Channel 5 Boston, WBZ-CBS Channel 4 Boston, and in local newspapers, the Metro West Daily News, the Community Advocate, and the Hudson Sun. One Wants to Be a Letter has already sold over 800 copies, and a portion of the proceeds from the book sales go to the For Jake's Sake Charitable Foundation, which helps families with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy make their homes accessible. So now, without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Jake Marrazzo and Jeff Kinney. All right, and there's Jeff.
All right.
Thought I clicked on it. There's Jake. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. And Jake, thank you so much for doing this with us tonight. It's a really special honor to see you on our screen. So
yeah, no problem. Thanks so much for having me.
This is really cool. Especially, I have a son who's 17 years old, and I'm guessing you're in your senior year of high school. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a weird year, hasn't it?
It really has, yeah.
And I can't wait to talk to you about my son and you and what you might have in common and hear all about you as a person. But first, let's talk about your book. So here I have it, One Wants to Be a Letter. And I found a little note in my office that says, "This copy has been sold!" ! Leave on Anna's desk so she can get it into the right hand. So that's 801 at least. Congratulations. 800 is actually, that's a lot of copies sold for a self-published book. Can you tell me how did you get the word out about your book?
So, first of all, I'm a huge fan of yours. Your books were like, just everyone was reading them back in middle school. Those were awesome. I love when I was younger. So the word got out mainly because of our sort of community that we've built up. As was mentioned before, I have Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, which is, a muscle wasting disease. And we've sort of used that to help other kids make their homes and lives more accessible with the same thing I have.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of friends in that circle. And that's mainly how that was our jump start to sort of get it going.
Yeah, but this book really deserves wide release. I was telling you before we started, I said I actually, just because of where I sit in the community, a lot of people send me self-published books. Honestly, some are good, some aren't so good. Yours is really good. Anna, the person that works with me, she told me about the book, and I was like, that's a really good idea. And then I took a look at it and I read it, and I was like, this is a professional grade book. Of course, it's professionally written, it's professionally illustrated, but this is something really to be proud of. And I wanted to ask you about the message of the book. I think we kind of understand it, from the preamble, but I'd really like to get to the roots of why at age 4 you had this idea, and maybe to ask you if the meaning of the book has changed over time.
Yeah, so it actually sort of came from an unlikely place, because you would sort of think I came up with the message of it first and then came up with the creative concept for kids, but I was a kid back then. And so I was sort of inspired by Toy Story, and cars were like, these inanimate objects coming to life. Yeah. And I don't really remember much of the exact moment I came up with it, but I was like, what would it be like if there were numbers and letters coming to life? And I really had no idea the sort of weight of the message of it back then. But I think it's a great message about being unique and celebrating your strengths and your uniqueness.
Yeah, and I think it's really a good book for our times, because it's not only just about the individual person, but it's about a feeling of belonging and wanting to be a part of something. And I think that the world is getting so much more inclusive, and that the authors that come through our bookstore all have a different personality, different message. And I think that the publishing world is getting much better represented. It's much more representative of the types of people that are out there in the world, and I'm happy for that, and I'm happy for your book. Can you tell us what your hope for this book is can we do a reading of the book? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Great. But tell me what your hope for the book is before we get into the book itself.
I really hope that it resonates with kids, and just sends across the message that it's okay to be different. It's okay to you should celebrate your uniqueness. Yeah, is the sort of the message I want to get across, and I hope that that sort of that kids really take that message to heart in their everyday lives.
I love it, and I think that a lot of kids will. So I didn't ask you about this beforehand. Is it okay to do a reading of the book? I could show the pictures. Will that work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So, and you have a copy there as well? There we go.
Yeah, okay. Right here. All right, so one wants to be a letter.
I start on the title page just to make it awkward for you. All right, here we go.
One is a number.
All right.
But he sometimes feels like a lonely number. One has a lot of friends, and mostly one's friends are letters. This makes one a little sad, because one wants to be like his friends. One wants to be a letter. Letters can do really fun things, like get together and spell words.
That made me laugh. This made me laugh.
Numbers can't do that. They can only get together and make bigger numbers. And one does not think that is so great.
I love that. Oh, we got to see that other page too. Excellent.
So one day, one decided he was going to be the letter T. He put his arms out to his sides and walked around all day telling everyone, "Hey, I'm not a number, I am the letter T." But after a while, one's arms got tired, and he was just a number again.
I love it.
The next day, one decided to walk around with a ball on his head. "Hey, everyone," one yelled. "I'm not a number anymore, I am the letter I." But one could not keep the ball bounced on his head. The ball kept falling off, and one kept becoming a number again. One's letter friends kept laughing at him. They said, "One, you cannot be a letter, you are just a number." This made one very sad.
He really sells it, man. He's sad.
One day, the town was having the annual carnival. Part of the carnival was a race where the fastest contestant won a big trophy. One decided to sign up for the race. On the day of the race, One and all his letter friends lined up at the starting line. On your mark, yelled the starter. Get set. All the races be prepared to run. Go. Everyone started to run. It's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
It was crowded and all the racers kept bumping into each other. The letters were not built as sleekly as One. When they tried to run fast, most of them fell over. But One was built straight and narrow. He ran faster and faster and pulled out in front of everyone. One easily won the race. At the awards ceremony, One was given the biggest trophy he had ever seen. It was gold and blue. At the bottom, it said first place, and when he looked at the top, it had a giant number 1. All of One's friends were happy for him, but they also were a little jealous. They all wanted to be number 1. One really liked his letter friends, but now One loved being a number.
That's excellent. I really love the book, and I see it. You have your T-shirt on for Jake's sake, and I see a little shade of Greg Heffley there. We've got our characters have something in common.
Right. That's actually what it was inspired by. Was that I drew this when I was younger.
That's fantastic. And tell us about how you got hooked up with the illustrator, because it's very rare for somebody who's self-published to find such a good illustrator. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Gregor Bernard is our illustrator, and he, for our foundation, he had done the illustrations for us. So like he would modify this character, the For Jake's Sake guy, to like add, like a lightsaber to him, or like, Christmas, seasonal stuff. And he had also done work. My dad had started a little small T-shirt company for a little bit, and he drew for that. And so we had asked him, we were like, he's the perfect artist to do this, because Civen Media Publishing, who we did this through, they had an in-house illustrator, but we were like, no, we got to use Gregor for this. And these illustrations came out amazing.
Yeah. And when you first saw them, did they match what you had in your head for the numbers and the letters, or did Gregor add something?
Almost exactly. It almost exactly matched up.
Right. That's really cool. And so there are a lot of, I'm sure there are a lot of aspiring authors right now who are watching this, and I'm sure they're wondering how they could get their work published. Like, what would you say that you've learned from the experience that really surprised you from the time that you had an idea? I know your dad helped you put words to the idea, and of course that was a long time ago. To 13 years later, now you're a published author. What would you say you learned that you could pass on to some other aspiring authors or illustrators?
I think I learned that no matter how small you think, of an author or like a creator you might be, there still might be, someone bigger who could really, appreciate and like your ideas and say, this person deserves a chance. And that, that person will come along and you will eventually be at that sort of level.
Yeah. And something I really like reading about you, when your father first sent that email, he said, you're really a creative person. You've always been a creative person. So we know now that you are a theater person, you're an actor, and you're also a writer. What other outlets do you find for your creativity?
Sort of typing down stories of mine.
Yeah,
is a real luxury, actually.
Yeah, and how do you do it? Like, so tell me what form that takes. You're out and about. You're in the car. You're laying in bed. Like, when do these ideas percolate up?
They usually sometimes I actually had a interesting recent idea for some kind of future project just from watching YouTube.
Yeah.
I feel like the inspiration can really just come from anywhere.
Yeah. And are you active on any social media outlets?
So I am active on Instagram and I believe also Facebook. It's the Jake Marrazzo author page.
Yeah. And have you dabbled in TikTok at all?
No, I haven't.
My son recently, he's your age, as I mentioned before, he recently started doing TikTok videos, and it's been a really good outlet for him in the middle of this pandemic. So he reaches a lot of people, and it's really funny because I didn't see it in him, but I think it's a great social media outlet because it seems like sort of positive and pretty inventive. But let's actually talk about your plays and the roles that you've played on stage. When did this all start? When did you start to become an actor?
I'd say this was in 7th grade. Well, I've sort of always like kind of I feel like I've always sort of been an actor at heart, because I would always, you know, after watching movies, I'd be like, okay, I would probably have said that line like maybe differently or whatever. It was just sort of in my head, and I didn't think to do it, like to actually pursue, you know, like acting in school until like later. That was in middle school, and we were doing this project in drama class. And we were making movies, and we were supposed to film ourselves. And that was the first time where I was like, this is actually really fun. I kind of want to, you know, continue doing this. Because I was like imagining how would my character react in this situation. And it's like, it's kind of a fun thing to do. So I had auditioned for the 7th grade competitive play, which I did not get into. But I remember the people who were running the audition were like, just because you didn't get into this, don't stop acting. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the first audition, you know? And there were tons of people that auditioned for that. So, you know, they had to cut some people. But I was considered. And then...
and I wanted to ask about that. They call it a competitive play. I haven't heard it in those terms before. Does that mean it's like best person for the role wins, everybody doesn't get a shot, kind of like it's hardcore? It's cutthroat.
So the high school that I go to does competitive plays to where the 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th, 11th, 12th, they all have to put together, or well, they have directors. They have certain directors assigned to each grade, and they put together a show that they get off of whether it be, you know, like websites or, you know, and they're usually, you know, straight theater plays. And the 7th graders are a part of that. So they actually perform a show while the judges are giving out all the, or sort of planning all the awards and stuff like that. It was like, I got best actor in one of them.
Wow.
That's cool. But yeah, so I didn't get into that one, but I would eventually do competitive plays in the future. And then during that summer, my first sort of real musical I ever did was High School Musical.
I was gonna ask. I was wondering. That's funny. And what role were you in there?
I was smaller part. I was my character's name was Ripper. And I was like a sort of skater dude who had like a solo in one of the songs. It's interesting to look back on and how much I've evolved as an actor.
I have to ask this. Are you the guy who says it's like a cello?
Yes, that is the character.
All right, I literally, just totally unrelated to this right now. I don't know why. I had an insomnia last night, and one of the things I did while I was lying in bed is I watched the song. It's called "Stick with the Status Quo," right? And I watched that song, and it makes me laugh so much because there's so much character in that one song. You know, like the guy who goes, "A saw," you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's really hilarious. So that's really cool that you did that. And so what is it about theater people? Because I remember when my kids started off in high school, and I said, I think that high school is sort of, it's about finding your people, right? And so you seem to have found your people in the theater community. What is it about theater people that makes them different?
I have to say they're like usually very exuberant, more than you usually see. And that's, I think, what sort of drew me to them, because like a lot of them would just like talk about like, you know, like stories, and walking into that auditorium was almost like walking into the bar from Cheers. It was like everybody knows your name. And it felt sort of like a community with these exuberant people that would talk about their days and be like, oh, you want to go over lines with this? Oh yeah, sure. And it was just it was a nice community to sort of be a part of. And I think that's what drew me to it.
Yeah. I have tried to act just a little, and I'm truly the worst actor that anybody ever could imagine. But I've gotten to kind of touch theater, right? Because we did a musical from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and it really was the best, most positive, creative experience I've ever had, because it was different type of people, you know, and the guys, it was a pair of guys who wrote the music and lyrics, and man, they would just pound away at that piano and work out the songs. And I remember this one night, they had, the next day they had to put on a show, and they didn't have one song. And so they spent all night working on it, delivered it to the actors in time for them to perform it like the next day. I couldn't even believe you could do something like that. Like, have you had any experience with, I know what you do usually is you adapt plays that exist. Do you have any experience with creating something new?
Yes, actually. So in some of the drama classes that they offer at school, there's one, I believe it's called some like advanced theater studies, and I took the directing version of that course.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And you got to like write your own sort of short plays, and that was really fun because like, you know, usually we're adapting stuff, as you said, and we sort of have to go off of that source material. We can sort of experiment, but, you know, we can't go too far out of that ballpark. Yeah. And so creating shows is very fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's something that you could do in your future, is to really, and, you know, to not just be in front of the lens, as they say, but behind it. But I think that it's something that's been very fun for me is that we just announced that we're doing like a Wimpy Kid animated thing. And it's funny.
Really?
Yeah, it's really cool. And so it's all voice acting. And so in this Zoom world that we're living in right now, I'll be like watching it at home while there's a snowstorm going on in Plainville, Massachusetts, and there's a sort of a coach in a way, somebody leading the actor through their lines in Los Angeles, and then the actor is like in Vancouver, and it's really wild and empowering. Like when the actor is reading the line a certain way, to send them a note and say, "Oh, could you really lean into this word or this emotion?" And then like 5 seconds later, they're acting it out. It's really cool. And in fact, if we next time we lay down some voice recordings, I'd love for you to be a part of that, to see how it works, because it's really cool.
Oh, that would be cool. Is Zachary Gordon gonna reprise his role?
Zach is like a 25-year-old, like muscly guy now. I think
I actually follow both the guys who played Greg and Rowley on TikTok.
You know, it's really cool.
Friends to this day.
Yep. You know what? That's something that is really cool, is that those guys, usually you hear about like Harry Potter and you're like, oh, Harry and Ron, are they really good friends in real life? And it's like, not really, they're not really the way that you imagine them. But these guys, Zach and Robert, they really are good friends. And they also have, they've got Devin, who played Roderick in their little circuit. And they grew up on this, and this was the first big thing for all these guys. And, and so they've really stayed tight because of it. And I'm still friends with those guys too. Mostly Zach and Robert. But how do you, I mentioned that I send notes to the actors, and I feel a little weird, I'm a writer, but I'm sending notes to actors. How do you respond when somebody gives you a note or is critical, or, are you sensitive, or do you take the note well?
So I usually just don't believe them, and then I just move. No. So when someone gives me criticism, I usually take it to heart a lot. I'm like, I usually sometimes shame myself. I'm like, did I do something wrong here? That was sort of in the beginning of doing shows. Yeah. And I mean, some people give great notes. Like you said, you should sort of like maybe try this scene differently, or like, do this character a bit differently than you are. And some people have told me to do less energy, and I'm like, you kidding me? I'm gonna do less energy?
That's funny. Oh man, I really envy you for being on stage. I often say to my wife, I think I miss my calling. Like if I had a calling and I was capable and good looking enough and athletic enough, I would have been like a background dancer in Hamilton. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to be a star. I don't need to have the solo, but I just want to be part of it. You know what I'm saying? So I can really feel for you. And you had some roles where there was some dancing involved, didn't you? I saw you dressed up in a disco outfit in one of the clips. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was the genie in Aladdin,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was probably my favorite role by far. That was the most fun to ever do, and
Wow.
that was the I did a lot of dancing in that. Like that, the Friend Like Me was a 5-minute number, and I had to sort of be freestyling dancing the whole time.
Yeah.
That was fun, and I usually try to adapt the dancing as much as I can.
Yeah.
Like so, with the movements and stuff. In
Sure.
fact, there was actually a story of the choreographer we have
Yeah.
for our school's drama society.
Yeah.
She had, I think she had an audition dance that was like a tap dance.
Yeah.
And I was like, "How do you want me to do that?" It felt like it was sort of as if to say like, "Oh, Jake will figure it out." Like he knows how to adapt this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I should maybe adapt that stuff by now.
That's nice when somebody has confidence in you like that. That's really cool. And one of the things I would always worry about is, let's say I knew that I had a 5-minute number on stage. I have like my mind rebels against me, I guess you could say. Like my mind would be thinking the whole time, I'm going to sabotage you. I'm going to mess this up. Did you ever forget your lines, or kind of, did you get into your own head a little bit ever?
It's funny. I actually do that a lot when I'm especially like for some reason during the latest show, which was Peter Pan, which unfortunately had gotten canceled.
Yeah.
I was like really, really focused on getting my lines right for some reason.
Yeah.
Just that show specifically, I don't know like why I was like super focused. Because I'm focused in every show, but a lot of the time, sometimes I'll get in my own head and I'll be like, "Am I gonna get this line right? Wait, do I have it all right?" And then that usually sometimes will end up in me, forgetting something during rehearsals and stuff when I overthink it.
Yeah. But something that's funny about the live action set is that the writer really is not, I mean, a writer is sometimes invited onto the set, but they're not really necessary, right? In fact, the writer can kind of get in the way. So mostly my job is to stay out of the way. But I was good friends with like Robert Capron, like I said. And this one time he was about to go in front of camera, and he said to me, I said, "What's your line going to be?" And he said what his line was going to be. I said, "Oh, I'll bet you're going to mess this up. I'll bet you're going to mess it up." Right. And then he got up there, and cameras are on. Of course, it's an expensive production. Every minute that you're filming is money going out the window. And so then he messes up the line, right? And then so I'm backstage, kind of laughing to myself. And then he actually says to the director, "Jeff Kinney said I was going to mess up my line." And I was like, "No." And then the director came after me, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh man." I felt like
those movies are actually some of the best comedies like I've ever seen, especially the third one is just fantastic.
Oh, thank you. What's really funny about those is that it's not often. What was really special about them is it's not often that actually kids get to be in a production with a lot of other kids. Like a lot of times, if you're like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid, you're the only kid on set, and your role is to be the son of, or the daughter of the main characters who are grown-ups. So these kids, it was like fantasy land. They would play. They would be on in front of the camera all day, and then at night they were in the pool. They were playing ping pong. It's kind of a really cool experience. I'm sure it's a little bit like what you have gotten in your high school experience. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
You've said that you want to be an inspiration to kids with Duchenne's, and I know that you have been. I was wondering, have you found that you've inspired other kids not in the Duchenne's community?
Yes, actually, there have been a lot of kids that have really enjoyed it. There was one kid that we actually his mother had posted on Facebook and was like, "My son loves this book. It's his favorite book, and he brought it into school today." And I was like, and so me and my dad were like, why don't we do something for him? So we had gone to his house and brought him a copy of the book, signed it, and then also gave him a "One Wants to Be a Letter" T-shirt.
Oh, cool!
And the kid's face just lit up, and I was like, that's awesome to see that that's kids really just enjoy it so much.
Yeah, and I'll bet you've inspired a lot of grown-ups as well with your message. You certainly have inspired me. Tell us a little bit. So you went on Dr. Phil. That's pretty cool. Not everybody can say that. And something that struck me is that you seem really comfortable in front of the camera. Do you think that performing on stage helped, or were you really shaking inside?
Well, when I was on the national television, that's where I was really shaking inside.
Yeah.
Of course, I get like, the sort of jitters when getting on stage, but it's usually more like excitement mixed with nerves.
Yeah.
But like mostly excitement.
Yeah.
But like for that one, I was like, oh my God, like I'm about to be Dr. Phil himself. And then Dr. Frida Lewis Hall, the Pfizer person who was there, she had said, I've been on the show like 800 times and I still get nervous every single time. So, and that sort of made me feel better. And I was like, yeah. It still gets nervous.
Yeah. You know what I found is a really good technique for making myself less nervous, because I've been on TV a number of times. And what I do is I try to transfer that nervousness onto somebody else. I'll actually say to like the person that's with me, I'll be like, I feel really sick. I don't think I'm going to make it. And then they're really nervous, and then I'm fine. It's worth it to help myself. I've read a number of times, including in your bio in this book and on your blog, that you really like to laugh. So what is it that makes you laugh? Like what really brings you joy?
Really funny jokes.
Yeah. Are you saying like set jokes, like somebody says there was this guy and he walked into a bar, or more like naturalistic kind of jokes?
Dad jokes will sort of make me laugh sometimes.
Okay.
This is those sort of I do the morning announcements at my school this year.
Yeah.
And so I usually sometimes, because a lot of people groan when they hear the joke, it's like, oh, this is gonna be so bad. So I do them occasionally, but I do some funny jokes. I'm trying to think of like other things that might make me laugh a lot. When people swear, that always makes me laugh for some reason. I don't know why. Just when someone says the F word, it just makes me laugh for some.
My kids, what did they say? Oh yeah, when they were younger, when they're really young, like 3 and 1 or something like that, or 4 and 1, their swear word was bad baby. If you called somebody like bad baby, and they'd be like bad baby, and that was like, oh, we knew they just used like the worst swear word that they could possibly think of. But that still makes me laugh to this day. In fact, I have a 17-year-old now who's probably mortified by me talking about him, because he sometimes gets that way. But I'd be interested in seeing what you guys have in common. And I'll tell you what, I'll ask you a question and then you answer yours, and I'll tell you my son's. So favorite music genre?
See, I like all of them except for country, but I think I'd say rock for my favorite.
Rock. And so is there rock anymore? Are you listening to stuff from like the 90s, or is there stuff that's like, okay, so you go back a ways?
70s music is actually, I think, the best kind of music.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree. So my son, he's all over the board. He likes lots of things, including older music, but rap is his favorite genre for sure. How about favorite movie?
The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, The Empire Strikes Back. I just watched the Rise of Skywalker again last night, and it was like a 50% Rotten Tomatoes. I actually thought it was really good. I couldn't really see any holes in it. Did you like that one as well? No,
I didn't.
You're the 46% that didn't like that one. But did you like the second one in that trilogy?
The Last Jedi was at the second. Yeah, I thought that one was okay.
Yeah, okay, because I didn't like that one at first, and everybody liked that, and I had to go back. Okay, I'd say my son's favorite movie, that would be actually hard for me, because he's been watching a lot of Leonardo DiCaprio movies. Actually, no, he liked The Shawshank Redemption. Did you ever see that?
I actually haven't, but I hear it's very good.
Okay, favorite video game?
That's hard, because I got a lot of favorites I have. I'd probably say one of the Sonic the Hedgehog games on the Genesis.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, you go way back. All right.
Yeah, I actually have an old Sega Genesis with cartridges and everything.
Okay. I think my son's favorite was, he liked the Miles Morales Spider-Man, the last one on the PlayStation.
Oh, that's the new one. Yeah, that one looks awesome.
Yeah, not the newest new one, but the one right before it. All right, how about favorite snack? like junk food?
What's it? I like Roblox. Favorite snack? Those like Slim Jims when I come home.
Okay, yeah. My son actually also really likes those. And then it's Friday night. What time are you going to bed? I assume you don't actually have a bedtime, but what time do you turn off the lights?
I think usually on school nights I go to bed at 9, and then on Friday nights it kind of fluctuates. Sometimes I'll stay up until 11 before going to bed.
Yeah. My son all of a sudden he's a night owl, so it's like 2:30. And something else you and my son actually have in common is that I think you're a Nintendo fan, right? I saw that you went to the Nintendo headquarters. Is that in the United States?
That's in Nintendo America. That's in Seattle. That was fun.
Yeah, what was that experience like? What did you get to see, or did you get to meet anybody?
Yeah, so that was my Make-A-Wish trip.
Yeah.
And I believe I was maybe 10 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And I had gone, and it was really interesting to see. They had a ton of great stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was really strict inside of there because you couldn't take, any pictures at all because it's very secretive. Yeah. But I had met, I believe, 3 game testers that literally play video games for a living, which sounds fun.
Yeah.
And I was sort of asking them. I kind of wish I was older because then I probably would have asked them, better questions.
Yeah.
But I had a huge list of questions. That was a great experience.
That's cool. And there's something about those Nintendo characters to me that's my favorite platform, because I think the characters were just so well developed, and there was something for everyone. And have you heard about Nintendo World in Japan or seen pictures of that?
Yes, that looks awesome. I want to go to that if it comes to America.
Yeah, I want to go to it too. It's just it's amazing. It looks like they should have done that in the U.S. a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier somebody from Pfizer. Today's a big day because we have our first doses of the vaccine in the United States. So tell me this: when the world opens back up, what are you going to do first? If everything's free and clear, you don't have to wear a mask. What is the thing that you have been missing that you would really like to do again?
I like to ask this question a lot, but I don't know how to, Because I would say going out to eat, but we've sort of been doing that with but masks. I guess maskless, going out to eat would be really fun.
Yeah, maybe be on stage again in front of an actual audience.
Yeah, that's the one that I'd love to do again. Although, since I'm graduating this year, no, I won't be doing another one with the high school, unfortunately. Yeah. But I'd love to do it, continue doing it for fun in college.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you started applying to colleges?
I haven't yet. I think I'm going to go to community college first, and then just with all that's happening, maybe go to community college virtually and then go to a 4-year.
Yeah, that sounds good. And so quarantine, what's it been like for you and your family? Has this been hard, or did you adapt pretty well?
At the beginning, it was really hard because we didn't really know what to do. In fact, we made jokes when it started. We were like, welcome to the apocalypse and all that. We were taking walks outside. We were like, oh, they're going to be a bunch of zombies coming by. And then I think maybe a couple days after the shutdown, we watched Groundhog Day because every day felt like the same. Yeah. In fact, my dad always joked, he always called every day Blur's Day because it was all the same.
That's really hilarious. And do you think that anything good has come of the quarantine situation? I know there's a lot of sadness around COVID-19, a lot of loss, but for most of us, we've been in this kind of lifestyle, which is pretty much indoors, can't do a lot. Has anything good come from it in your own family?
I think my family is better equipped with technology now. Yeah. I think a lot of people are actually nowadays because they got to learn how to do Zoom and everything. Yeah. And I think something that this teaches everyone is that there's always another way.
Yeah.
To do things. Because for example, Google was down today. I believe for everyone in the U.S. But it was down for me at my school this morning, and we sort of adapted and figured it out. And okay, how do we do this without And I think a lot of problem solving has sort of come out with this.
Yeah, I think I would have been like, oh, thank God. Oh, I can't go to school. Sorry, guys. Google's down. Can't do a thing here.
I wish it stayed down longer because it,
Wouldn't it be nice? So tell us a little bit about, for Jake's sake, you're wearing the T-shirt. I was on the site today. It's an excellent site. Tell us what good it does. What's your mission, and why why should people check it out?
Our mission is to make families living with Duchenne. We don't say suffering of Duchenne. We always say living with Duchenne because not all of us suffer.
Yeah.
We say, we try to make their homes and lives more accessible.
Yeah.
I think the first time where I was like, we really need to help people was when I was at a muscular dystrophy camp, and I saw a boy in a wheelchair. And in order to get into his vehicle, he had to have like a wooden ramp built, and I had seen it, and I was like, those are the kind of people that I want to help to, get them the technology to do what they need, and just the smile on a bunch of kids' faces when they get the things that we provide them is really awesome to look at.
Yeah, that's really great that you're thinking outwardly. We have some friends. One of the they're living with Duchenne's, and we're close to them, and maybe they're watching tonight. Actually, I dedicated my last Wimpy Kid book to Ryan Hastings, who's
yes, actually, we know him.
You know him, yeah. He's a good guy. So we're aware of it, and we were involved in something called Lift Up Ryan, which was pretty cool, where the community kind of came together, which is awesome. And maybe he's on tonight. I say hello to him. Jake, you really are an inspiration to us all. Something that we want to do is, right now you sold 800 and we think at least one books. We're going to actually buy 100 copies and get them into the hands of kids who really would love to read the book and to get this message. So we're going to do that soon. And before we get into the question and answer portion here, I want to remind everybody, yes, you have heard Jake read the book, and yes, you have seen the pictures, but wouldn't it be nice to have your own copy of the book to help out Jake's organization, to help out an independent bookstore too? It's a great book. It really is. And of course, it'd be great to give away for Christmas. So I haven't even been watching the comments on the right-hand side of the screen, which is good because I get really distracted. But I see that there's one question in the queue. And if anybody else has a question, why don't you go ahead and put it into the queue or put it into the right-hand side. And Kim, why don't we do 5 or 6 questions? How about that?
Sure. So Jean would like to know, Jake, what are your plans for future books?
Well, first of all, we've actually sold over 1,000 books at this point. So, over 800 now. So the question was like, what are my plans for future books?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do plan on making future books. I'm gonna do my next one as soon as I think I have an idea that's as good as this. Because I've had a lot of ideas about one. I do have an interesting one that intrigues me that I might continue to do. It's sort of about anxiety and how to deal with that, but with another sort of analogy, like what we did with numbers and letters for this, to have kids understand it. So I think that idea I might continue to pursue. And yeah, I hope to, make a lot more of them.
That's really awesome. All right. Do we have any other questions in the queue, Kim?
We have a comment from Bailey, and she says, Jake, this is from Facebook. My son is 4 with Duchenne. Following your story has given me hope for my son's future. You help me know just how full it will be. So I had to pass that along.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's such a good thing, Jake. Does that, when you hear that you're inspiring people and making them feel hopeful, does it fuel you or does it energize you?
I think it definitely does because, I think my main motivation is to continue to inspire more kids with Duchenne and give them hope in a way that, like, yes, you can do these things. You can write a book, you can be on stage. That's and especially to younger kids, that are maybe newly diagnosed or, just starting out at the age that I was. to inspire them and show them that they can do these things, you know?
Yeah, that's wonderful. I see, Kim, that another question just popped up.
Yes, it did. This is from Michael. And Michael would like to know, where did you get your ideas? I want to be an author. Any tips?
See, I don't at all remember, you know, like 13 years ago coming up with the book, really. All I kind of remember is it was sort of always in my head is that. But I think, you know what I think is that the best ideas come when you're calm. You know, like when you're like, oh, this is annoying, I can't come up with something, then that's not going to get you anywhere. You know, like meditation especially can really help, you know, calm the thinking mind. My dad always says to me, you know, try to quiet your thinking mind, and then, you know, things will just sort of come to you. And then also I think inspiration can just really come from anywhere. You know, I was actually I was watching YouTube videos of they were Wii Sports tool assisted speed runs, and I didn't know what tool assisted speed runs were. And they're these they're not done by people, but rather they're done by a program to make, like, you know, a theoretically perfect speed run. And I was watching like them doing it when like Wii Sports boxing, and I was like, what would it be like if there was a world where like people were genetically engineered to like be perfect? And like, would that be fun to watch? Like, would that be make a good dystopian story? You know, I definitely find that ideas can come from really anywhere if you just think about, you know, that sort of thing.
Jake, I'm working on a story tonight, which is sort of the opposite. I'm doing Scary Stories by Raleigh Jefferson. Actually, I'm not allowed to really talk about this yet, but I'm going to anyway. I'm doing Scary Stories, and the stories are really absurd. So one of them is that that these skeletons. Oh, I'm sorry, I blew it already. Okay, is that they developed this scanner for the airport, like TSA, that people go through it, and they can go through in batches, so, you know, the lines move faster. But the machine actually turns the people into skeletons, like living skeletons. And so then I go through this exploration of, okay, what would the world be like if everybody was a skeleton? And it's fun to do that exercise. It's along the lines of what you were just saying. It's like, okay, well, you wouldn't have to shower in the morning, so you could sleep a little bit later. I guess you wouldn't have to eat. I'm not sure. You know, high school yearbooks would all everybody would look the same. You know, so it's fun to kind of go through to come up with a premise and then to kind of fully explore that premise. So I like your idea. The idea of like, you know, what if there were like two sports leagues, one in which no performance enhancing drugs were allowed, and the other anything goes. It would be really interesting to see those two leagues go in different directions. But that's funny. That's interesting. Calm is good. I do a lot of my writing actually at the cemetery, so I know what calm is like. Okay, Kim, I think what we're going to do before I say that Jake is getting a lot of love from Hudson High School, why don't we take the one more question and let's hope it's a good one.
Okay. This is from Beth, and she would like to know, what do you want to be when you are older as a career?
I've always sort of thought when I was younger that I've always wanted to do animated movies when I was younger, because I was so inspired, and still am, by Pixar and DreamWorks. That's something I've always wanted to do, but I'd also love to, you know, I think film is the main thing that I really want to pursue. And, you know, I think I just want to tell stories, you know, whether that be through books or movies or, you know, video games or whatever. Yeah, I'd really love to make a movie someday.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I can tell you, as a guy from Plainville, dreams do come true in that regard. So I hope you'll chase after that. I love it that you know already at such a young age that story is everything. And we have loved hearing your story. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your time with us on a school night. A lot of people showed up for this. We have 107 people logged on, which means more like 150 to 200 in their homes. Another 800 on Facebook Live. So you've reached a lot of people with your message. We thank you for that, Jake. And we want to remind everybody to consider buying One Wants to Be a Letter. It's an awesome, awesome book. Jake did a great job, and so did the illustrator. And there we go. He has something that I don't have right now, which is a stuffed character, which is really cool. Jake, thanks very much. We hope you guys have a happy holiday, restful time, and that the rest of your senior year is great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
All right. Take care. We'll see you down the road.
See you later.
Bye-bye.